what's next? What's next? And we also did something else, by the way, at that time, and it's important. In Arizona, there was another thing going on, which was to put an initiative on the ballot to say that if you get busted in possession of any drug, and you don't have a big criminal record, and you have a problem with drugs, then you should get offered drug treatment instead of incarceration. At least the first 2 times you get arrested. And that one won by a 2-1 margin. Well, the folks came back and tried to not cut it out, all this sort of stuff. But what we did was we came back in '98. And we went up to Alaska and Oregon and Washington and Colorado and Nevada and Maine, and we worked with local activists and local attorneys for medical marijuana initiatives on the ballot there. And I'll tell you, with '98, we won the first 3: Alaska, Oregon, and Alaska, Oregon, and Washington. And then in '99, we had to come back in Maine because the bad weather screwed up our signature gathering, but we won it in '99. And then in 2000, you know, Nevada, you got to win it twice to change the Constitution. We did that. In Colorado, we were on the ballot in '98, except then the Secretary of State of Colorado played some shenanigans, said that the vote didn't count. She died. We came back in 2003, and we won again. Right? So we won off. And I'll tell you, we did these initiatives. We drafted them more tightly, much more tightly than California. And we did that, and I say that with some regret, because in a way, California's opened up something quite remarkable. I mean, LA may be the Wild West of medical marijuana right now, but you know, Northern California's, has been spending 12 years working out local authorities, the cops, the growers, the patients, the docs, all this sort of stuff. You know, so I have some regrets about how tightly we drafted these things. We wanted to be sure we won. That's part of what we did. Now, some things we put in, like the patient registry, those were good ideas, a range of other things. We tried to learn from that. In retrospect, I wish we pushed it a bit further, because we won all of these by fairly substantial margins. And then beginning in 2000, my organization, at that point, Marijuana Policy Project, around 2002, began to get involved, started working with state legislatures and the initiatives. MPP, working with locals here, it was a 2004 initiative. We did Vermont and Maine, we did Connecticut and Mexico, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. That was the medical marijuana. Now, remember, they don't take it lying down. One of the things that happened a month after we won Prop 215 was the drug czar Barry McCaffrey stands up at a press conference around Christmas '96, together with Donna Shalala, who was the Secretary of Health and Human Services, and the head of the National Center for Drug Abuse, Alan Lester, and some other people, and they announced that we are going to go after, with the criminal law, any physicians or patients who discuss the medical value of marijuana, so-called medical. Well, my organization joined with the ACLU, and we sued their asses in federal court for violating the First Amendment rights. And we got a temporary restraining order, we got a preliminary injunction, we put it in the district court, we took it on the Court of Appeals, we won it there. They drew this out for like 6 or 7 years. Finally, they gave up around 2002, 2003. That right is there. Any doctor, whoever says that they don't have the right to do this, they don't know the law. Because under federal law today, if you live in a state, a medical marijuana state, you have the right to talk. In fact, it may be any state, I'm not actually certain about that, but you have the First Amendment right to talk about this. And no physician can be punished for talking about this with a patient. Right? I have to tell you, shortly thereafter, my organization and the ACLU each received a check in the mail for about $350,000 from the drug czar's office, reimbursing us for our attorney's fees. That was the sweetest contribution. Now, here's what I've always been involved in the medical marijuana issue for 2 reasons. The first one is that I believe that the persecution and the prosecution of people who use marijuana really as medicine is the most egregious aspect of the war on marijuana. The notion that you take people for whom this truly is a medicine and you treat them like a criminal, I mean, no, that is unacceptable. That is unacceptable. But I've also always been in this for another reason as well, which is my belief and my hope and my reading of the evidence that by working on medical marijuana, we would soften up the opposition to the broader decriminalization and legalization of marijuana. Because ultimately, the best way to protect the rights, not just of the recreational marijuana user, but the medical user as well, is to make this stuff entirely legal. Right? That is the best way.